Catherine Garlick, the daughter of the boarding-house owner, and an unnamed neighbor, testified that the couple who rented from her father seemed affectionate and kind to each other. But Garlick also claimed that prior to the deceased's illness he had been some days on a frolic, that is, a drunken binge. Another boarder, John White, seconded this report. This behavior was not uncommon, White testified, for his neighbor would sometimes get on a frolic and continue a few days, and then would abstain from liquor altogether. The deceased's wife added to the mystery. She recalled that on the Friday before her husband's death, he had visited Dr. James Vere nearby at 117 Varick Street, and was prescribed some sort of medicine. The next day her husband seemed better. He took tea at his usual hour, but the prescribed medicine, whatever it was, operated so very powerfully that in the morning he could not get out of bed to dress. Only then did the family turn to Dr. Atkinson, who administered lobelia to turn his sickness downwards. An annual plant with pale blue flowers, lobelia was a staple among the botanic physician's curatives, prepared as either an ointment made from the plant's root or a tincture from its dried seeds. Also called Indian tobacco, recalling the plant's traditional medicinal use among Native American tribes, lobelia was a powerful emetic and particularly useful in treating patients with asthma, hence another of its common names, asthma weed. In addition, lobelia is a psychoactive drug, and some cultures believed that its ingestion, often by smoking, induced spiritual transcendence. Thus, though botanic physicians commonly prescribed lobelia, they also warned that it could be very prostrating to the system, and, when given alone, sometimes caused alarming appearances. Atkinson gave his patient 2 doses of 15 grains each. 1 grain is about 65 milligrams, which operated copiously as an emetic. The doctor returned the next day, but finding his patient little improved, administered some black powder, a mixture of mandrake root, charcoal, and ground-up whitewood and dogwood bark. Mandrake, or May apple, was a strong purgative. The mixture of bark was a powerful tonic. At first, this concoction made the man feel worse, but a short time later he seemed improved. He got up, brushed his teeth, and ate some toast. Then, 2 hours later, he was dead. The inquest concluded that he had died of apoplexy, a diagnosis commonly used to describe something akin to a stroke, and whose symptoms were congruent with what Dr. Hurd had found in his examination. The inquest absolved Dr. Atkinson of any blame and dampened further attempts to place the lack of effectiveness of botanic medicine at the center of the story of this individual's death. Instead, reports shifted to who he was. The notice in the Philadelphia North American described him as a Narragansett Indian, otherwise known about the country as Apess the missionary preacher. The deceased in his lifetime was an author, the Albany Evening Journal noted, who wrote the life of King Philip, several sermons, etc., which he sold for his own interest. The same paper mentioned, albeit erroneously, that the man's wife was a good-looking white woman, a fact that, though titillating to some genteel readers, would not have made the couple unusual in lower Manhattan neighborhoods. 5 Points, for example, was notoriously multiracial. No newspaper, however, mentioned that 6 years earlier, the deceased had begun a meteoric rise as a spokesperson for Native American rights and liberties. The deceased was 41-year-old William Apess. 2 years earlier, he had been one of the country's most important Native American intellectuals, having published more than any other indigenous writer before the 20th century, and attained fame and notoriety for championing his people's tribal rights. In 1829, he had issued his autobiography, the first Native American to do so. He had led the successful challenge of the Mashpee Indians against the state of Massachusetts, through which the Mashpee